On Morning Combat here, I wanted to talk to the most dominant fighter in mixed martial arts today. So I got Kayla Harrison, the star of PFL, the reigning champion. Women's lightweight playoffs are upon us. She's unbeaten this calendar year, and she's on this show now. Kayla, a pleasure to speak to you. How has this season been for you?
Oh, thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, the fact that there is a season is a good start. So I'm happy to be competing. I'm happy to be back in the PFL cage and marching towards that $1 million check.
You're 2-0 this year. You're going to enter the playoffs. Your division, the women's lightweight division, will be having it Thursday, August 27th on ESPN2. Let's start right here. PFL feels, tastes, smells different this year. And I'm not saying this to be rude. It wasn't that I didn't like PFL in the past, but maybe I've been a little indifferent, outspokenly indifferent. This year, I don't know what's the secret sauce here. I'm tuning in every week that it's on, and I'm entertained. Have you felt that same difference to not just your fights, your division, but the whole brand this calendar year?
Yeah, I think that it definitely feels different this year. I think the PFL has done a really good job of, during that year break, they've really cooked up some good stuff. You know, everything from the production of the show to bringing in big stars. The broadcast team is excellent. I feel like they've just done a really good job of making an awesome product. And, the fighters, I don't care who you are, like, if you turn on a PFL fight, usually those get they're just going crazy, because they want to win. We're talking about life-changing opportunity here. I don't think there's been a boring fight in the PFL yet.
No, and certainly your fights have been anything but boring. In fact, it's you're in this zone right now where it's literally like it doesn't matter to us as fans and journalists who you're fighting. We know we're going to be entertained, and to your credit, it's been largely one-sided. Do you feel because of that it's okay to be, I guess, anti-humble in a way and say, yeah, I'm the face of the PFL right now. I'm bringing it.
I don't want to be anti-humble. But no, I think that I'm 10 fights into my career. I'm starting to get comfortable. I'm starting to feel that confidence that I felt as a judo player back in the day as an Olympic champion. And I'm not afraid to say it. I for a long time I was Miss Congeniality, and I felt like I was the face of the promotion. I always did everything right. I always, crossed my T's and dotted my I's and smiled and waved and kissed babies and did everything right. And I guess people, I don't know, don't like that. Our society doesn't really like that or care for it. And so I'm just here to be real from now on. I'm not here to make friends, and I'm here to win and take over.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, they used to say in the pro wrestling business, Kayla, you can either make friends or you can make money. And I think that you've done a great job on the latter. Speaking of that, look, obvious to anyone, and I had Randy Couture on the show a few weeks ago, and this was a big topic we talked about. Your approach just feels different this year. The results are, largely similar, but it's the attitude that you just referenced. It almost feels like you're cutting pro wrestling promos afterwards. Do you have a fandom background in that realm where that's just producing it, or is this just all fire and passion coming out of it?
No, no, I'm not a fan of pro wrestling. I guess I was when I was a little kid, with my dad. I don't know what kid wasn't. When the owner of ATT, Dan Lambert, is this huge pro wrestling fan. And I constantly make fun of him for it. But no, I think that it's just, I became a mom this year. I had a whole year where I wasn't able to compete. And quite frankly, I don't have time for bullshit anymore. It's no more BS. I'm just going to say it like it is. That's it.
That's funny you say that about the great Dan Lambert, because there's whispers that his pro wrestling love, which, by the way, let's give Dan Lambert credit. I think it was 2-3 years ago. He actually took part in pro wrestling with Impact Wrestling down there in Florida. He was great. And some people thought maybe he's writing
the clip of himself several times.
There you go. Some people thought maybe he was writing Colby's UFC promos. You know what I mean? There was a little whispers of that, but have you seen the belt room that this man, Dan Lambert, talks about?
Yes,
the famous belt room.
Have I seen it? He's tried to give me a tour of it. It's like, He needs help. This is a true Dan Lambert story. Okay. So we're sitting at dinner. I'm talking to him about his pro wrestling obsession. I'm like, I'm trying to understand him. I'm like, this is fake, right? And he's like, you mock what you don't understand. And I'm not the first artist to be ridiculed for my work and like all this crazy stuff. And then he's like, he like stops. He looks at me and like this like idea pops. He's like, listen, Kayla. He's like, I have plenty of MMA belts. I have UFC belts, Bellator belts, PFL belts, one belts. I have all of them, but I don't have a pro wrestling belt. You could bring me my pro wrestling belts. And he's just like, let's do it. I'm excited. And I'm like, man, you are batshit crazy. Do not ever say that to me again. I'm an MMA fighter.
All right. I do like him calling himself an artist, though. I've done that a few times on
Oh my
this show.
God. Oh my God.
Great
He's
stuff.
so serious.
All right, Kayla, as it pertains to the PFL season, and this is not your first go round, but what's the best part about this unique regular season and playoff format? And what's the worst part for a fighter?
I mean, well, the best part is just that your destiny is in your hands. You go out there, you win, and you get to continue. I love the sport-based format. I believe in the sport-based format. I think that it's the future of MMA. Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, that's the best part. The worst part, I think, there are hurdles. It is tough for such quick turnarounds. My body was feeling it in the second fight, even though I didn't show it. I was definitely like a little worn down, a little burnt out, a little angry. And that's just from doing 2 camps back to back. Very, the training and the stress levels kind of go through the roof. So I think that's probably the toughest part of it.
Hey, you should keep channeling this anger. It seems to be working well. I don't mean to turn this into Star Wars Episode 3 or something, but feel your anger, Anakin. Indeed. Oh, you did that one off with Invicta when the PFL season was off during the quarantine. It was last November. You got the victory, and it was the whole setup was, Kayla's going to show the world that she can make featherweight should she ever need to. Now, it was spectacular. How hard was that actually for you?
I mean, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't fun. I've been a pretty vocal advocate about not cutting weight. I just don't think it's good for you. I think it's bad. That sends a bad message to young kids growing up. And, we step in a cage and with 4-ounce gloves and punch each other in the head. So I just think it's really dangerous. But I was able to be super disciplined. I was able to be a professional about it. I got my walking around weight down to about 153, which is pretty light for me. I haven't weighed 153 pounds naturally, like in a long time. I hadn't weighed 145 pounds since I was 16 years old. So, it was tough. I had to be pretty disciplined, but anything worth having takes a little bit of discipline and sacrifice. So
how do you look at your prospective future at that weight class? Is it only for like a big cash in, big challenge? Would you ever want to do that full time if you had to? Where do you stand with that now in terms of 145?
I mean, I'm definitely not going to be able to do it, fight 145 4 times in a year. I just don't think that's possible. But yeah, I mean, I obviously I understand that there's a lot more opportunity for me at 145. Heck, I mean, probably 2 of the greatest female fighters of all time both compete currently at 145. So, and that's what I want to be. Ultimately, the goal is to be the best. So I have to compete against the best. So we'll see.
Okay. You already know the I don't want to say the rhetoric, but the narrative out there. Every time you have a dominant performance, us in the podcast game and the people that fill time on radio shows or whatever go, man, how do you think about Kayla now versus those 2 names you mentioned, Cyborg, Amanda Nunes, because they're the greats of history and the moment, and you're looking to be a potential great of the future, somebody who's saying out loud, I want to be the greatest of all time. How do you get in the cage with them? Does it eat away at you at night? Can we do promotion versus promotion, network versus network fights? How do we get there?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, that's my manager's job to figure that out. I leave the thinking to him. I just do the fighting. But you know, the one way I make sure that that happens is I continue to be dominant. I continue to go out there and do my job. I still have 2 more fights on my contract with the PFL. I fully expect to go out there and put a whooping on Jenna Fabian and whoever makes it to the finals, and then we'll see what happens. But one way for sure to get there is to keep winning and to keep being dominant.
All right, as it pertains to this playoffs coming up, you've got Jenna Fabian, as you mentioned. On the other side of the bracket is the number 1 seed, Larissa Pacheco, who was also 2-0 like yourself, but got the nod as the number 1 seed due to the point system and the tiebreakers. She'll take on Taylor Guardado. Larissa Pacheco's coming off a fairly exciting knockout victory and has history against you. Lost twice, but has gone the distance twice. I feel like looking at the tea leaves from a distance going, hey, maybe we do that a third time. Maybe she can improve on those first 2. What are your thoughts on her evolvement right along in comparison to yours since the last time you fought her?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think she's been underrated. I know that I didn't give her enough credit the first time I fought her. She's definitely underrated. She has 4 losses in her career, and 2 of them are to me, and the other 2 are to UFC champions. So it's not like she's a scrub. I think she's a very well-rounded fighter. I think she's got a good game. I think 155 weight class suits her. I think she's strong. She's fit. She's only 26, so I think she's going to go places in this sport. But unfortunately, there's just no stopping me. I'm what I'm going to do. What's coming. Good luck trying to stop it. And I think, people say, oh, she went the distance, blah, blah, blah. But like, of course anyone who just survives, can go the distance. Like, she wasn't trying to win those fights. She was trying to survive. She was trying to not get submitted. She was trying to not get, TKO'd. So for me, congratulations. Like, if that's like, people are like proud of that, like, oh, congrats, you went the distance. Like, I don't even know what to say when people say stuff like that. Like,
it's very fair. And she's gonna have to get through her semifinal matchup to have a chance at fighting you a third time. When you're as dominant as you are, sometimes you end up competing against yourself. So do you fear more finding your equal in the cage and having them get the best of you and suffering a defeat? Or do you fear more, having an unforced error and losing that focus one time and suffering the L that way? I don't mean to bring up the L. People hate talking about that.
Yeah, what the hell? Like,
I mean, what am I even doing here? Really?
What?
Yeah.
No, I mean, of course, I always want to test myself. I always want to push myself to the limits. My goal as a human being is to wake up every day and be the best possible version of me. I would be really upset if I messed up and lost myself a fight, for sure. I think there's no shame in losing. I've lost many times in my judo career. Failure has always been my fuel. It's not something that would ever break me or stop me or deter me. But if I lost because I, wasn't disciplined, or because I was stupid, or because I didn't listen to my coaches, like, that would be pretty unforgivable to me. I would not be able to forgive myself of that, which is why I make sure I don't do that.
So in that motivation to make sure you don't do that, and this doesn't apply just to MMA, this applies to life, right? Being the best version of yourself. What is your daily motivation in that regard that even us regular civilians can get inspired by? What drives you every single day to do the hard work that you may not want to do?
One of my favorite sayings to myself is that I won't always be motivated, but I can always be disciplined. So and doing the right thing is always the right thing. It's there's no secret formula. There's no secret like switch that I flip and I'm like, oh, I'm an Olympic champion. Oh, I'm PFL champion. Like, it's pretty simple. I don't take shortcuts. I don't skip the hard stuff. In fact, I try to find joy in the hard stuff. Like, it's all part of the process. And once you realize that process gets you so much good and brings forth so much self-satisfaction and self-confidence and a sense of accomplishment, the hard stuff kind of becomes easy. Like, and I don't know if that I'm explaining it right, but
No, that covers it right there. I mean, when
okay.
it comes to your motivation to be great and to be the greatest of all time, what's behind that? Is it sort of like, these are the gifts I've been given and I want to maximize them? Is
Yeah,
it
I mean, I
fear?
think it's just internal, from the time I was 6 years old. I've always, I watched the Olympics when I was 6 years old. And I remember thinking, man, I want to be the best. I want to be the best in the world at something. And it just so happened I started judo that year, but if it had been tennis, I would have wanted to be the best at tennis. If it had been archery, like I would have wanted to be the best at art. Like that's just an internal thing. I've always been like that. I've always been built like that. And it I don't know, it's just that's Kayla, I'm like the kid that still races people to the car. Like I always want to win. I always want to be the best. I am psycho competitive. But I find a lot of like that brings me joy, that's my little form of happiness. Like a lot of people have struggle with addiction or struggle with gambling, whatever. Like that's my vice. I'm so lucky that I ended up being addicted to winning. Like it could have been
Hey,
way worse.
that's not bad. I was addicted to gas station food for many years. This hasn't done good wonders to my liver here, Kayla, but that's winning's a much better addiction. You told your story to my colleague, Luke Thomas, on Morning Combat spectacularly about becoming a mother, and it's inspiring, all that.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the journey now. What are some of
Yeah.
those like special rewards in this process that you didn't know were going to be there, but you're like, man, that's awesome?
I mean, there's so many, it's just to see how far they've come since they moved in with me. Just the little things like my Kyla, she's 8. When she first moved here, she was pretty malnourished. She was like 30 something pounds, didn't really like meat, didn't eat protein. Now she weighs 50 pounds and she eats steak with me and eggs, and like she's a little beast, and to see her developing as a young girl. Like she didn't like water to touch her face. She wouldn't even get her hair wet, like didn't like to get her face wet in the shower. And now she's doing like front flips into my pool, to see her kind of coming into her own. And because I've been able to give her a secure, stable, healthy environment, she's been able to blossom and flourish and thrive. That's priceless to me. I mean, that's like the biggest accomplishment I've ever had. It makes me like, makes me want to cry just thinking about it. And Emery, he's 2, so the accomplishments are maybe a little smaller, but he's just to see how happy he is, how again, we were worried he might have some delays in development, but he's walking, he's talking, he's so funny. He says the funniest things to me. Like, I don't know. The other night, he says now, like when I say, I love you, Emery, he goes, I love you more, mommy. And then I say, oh, I love you most. And he goes, I love mommy most. I love mommy most. I love mommy most. And just to hear that, like, it's just, it's an amazing blessing. I'm truly blessed. And I didn't even know what I was missing until I got it.
This is the real stuff. This is the genuine. So this is a wholesome moment. I feel like we should have the Full House music playing in the background. Thank you for sharing that. You're giving them life lessons, and I'm sure their ability to pass guard is going to be next level as well, just by osmosis.
Oh yeah.
So that's
I mean,
fantastic.
Emery already does ground and pound on his stuffed animals. So I like have
well,
to
there you go. There you
have
go.
to explain to him like, no.
Have you felt like you've had to mature like at a insanely rapid pace because of this? Because you're at that age where you've been an adult for a while, but it's a maturing age area anyway. But do you feel like you're like, man, I feel like I'm 55 now from all the things I've had to do?
Yes, 100%. I've always been an old soul, but no, I definitely had a lot of growing up to do in the last year. Once you have kids, it's not about you anymore. It's about giving them a better life and doing what's best for them. And I've had to mature, but I've also been through, my life is like, could be 10 different movies. I feel like at this point, I've been through quite a bit, both the highs and the lows. And it's really just taught me to embrace it and to enjoy the moment and live in the moment. And the moment right now is pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's not bad. Great stuff. I appreciate you sharing this side of you as well for some of the things that we don't see when we just watch you tearing people apart in the cage. I want to close with this, and fighters don't like talking about this because what happens in the sparring session, in the ring, in the cage, it's supposed to stay there. But there's people like me, Kayla, who like get really excited about stupid stuff like this. When you're at ATT and you look across and you see the great Amanda Nunes, you're thinking at the back of your head, man, one day I'd like to prove to the world that I'm even better. And maybe you two get in the sparring cage once in a while or work out. I mean, it's part of you just trying to like send the message that, hey, I love you, you're a great person, you're a great teammate and friend, and I'm sure we could be best buds, but one day, just one day, the transfer of power is going to happen, and I'm going to be the one doing it.
No.
No. Come on. I know you're too good of a competitor.
Because you know what? I know, because I've grown up training with all of my opponents, and it's a very common thing to happen in judo. And anyone who's a fighter will tell you there's a huge difference between training and fighting, you know, and there are so many people at ATT who are friggin' world champions at ATT, you know, like you spar with them, you train with them, and they cannot be beat. But for whatever reason, when you put the bright lights on, something changes, something happens. And I know that for whatever reason, when you put those bright lights on me, I shine. So I don't have anything to prove on the training mat. I'm there to get better. I'm not there to be king of the mat at ATT. I'm here to be the best in the world. So I got
all
nothing
right,
to prove
diplomatic, political, diplomatic Switzerland, but I believe you. I do think you're stockpiling information just in case. Kayla Harrison, it's been a great pleasure to speak to you. August 27th, the PFL playoffs for your division, women's lightweights, heavyweights that same night, ESPN 2, ESPN Plus on the prelims. Thank you for joining us here, and best of luck this season. You're on a great roll. Let's not mess with that, you know?
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Take care.